Hello, everyone. It is good to see you. Sorry, I had something in my shoe. I had to get it out last second. It was driving me nuts. It's like I'm not going to spend the rest of the hour wondering what in the world is in my shoe. Teeny tiny little rock. All right. Good to see you guys. Thank you for joining me today. And you are here because you want to understand and uncover some marketing magic. And that's what we're going to be covering today. Let me put my fancy graphic up there. All right. So it is good to see you. And first, before we get too far underway, let me know where you're from and maybe what is it you keep busy with? What kind of line of work are you in right now? Let's see. Where are you from? What do you do? Okay, so go ahead and answer that question. Let me know where you're from, what it is that you do, and maybe a little bit what it is that maybe you're struggling with marketing. What is it you're trying to maybe learn and glean from today, and how I might be able to help you with this. So the more you ask good questions, the more specific I can be to your specific issue, your specific problem. So we're going to be covering a lot of things. At the end of the day, I'm a strategist. I'm not a marketing consultant. I'm not a I'm not a internet guru when it comes to this sort of stuff, but I am pretty good at this. And I had to get really, really smart on marketing, partly because I really wasn't that great at it. I mean, I was good at it for my business, but when I started coaching people back in the day, and this was back when I was under the Landlord Coach brand. Some of you may know me from that. And I had written several books. The first book was The Time Wealthy Investor. I'm going to talk about that here in a little bit. But The Time Wealthy Investor specifically was for mom, or is, it's still being published. The Time Wealthy Investor was published for mom and pop landlords and property managers who were really struggling to not get beholden to the day-to-day operations of a property management company. Does anybody out there own any rentals? Well, if you do, that book is for you, right? It's specifically the Time Wealthy Investor 2.0 replaced the original book, so that first book is out of print now. But the 2.0 version of the Time Wealthy Investor was really getting granular on the operational functions of management. And I got really good at it, understanding a lot of automations, understanding property management software, and different uses of software and and different websites and things like that. That really helped. It really helped people be much more effective and efficient in their day and not be beholden to their business. Well, that's great, but the problem was I never really transitioned that over to marketing. And while I was good at marketing my own business, I never really spent a whole lot of time doing that for anything outside the industry. So when people started coming to me and I started shifting away from the just real estate coaching, but all into business, right? I really like working with service-based businesses. I don't do all businesses, but service-based businesses I really, really enjoy. Contractors, restaurants, coffee shops, fractional CFOs, fractional CMOs, folks like that. Those are all people who really did. I had to understand the marketing problems that they had. So I really dove into that and really had put a lot of new tools in my toolbox to help them out, which really has helped them. And that's what I'm going to be showing you today. So let's hear from you guys. I mean, we got a bunch of people in here already. So let's see. Hudson Valley, New York. No way. My old stomping grounds. Hello, Elizabeth. Good to see you. I'm from Middletown. That's my hometown. Well, actually, I grew up in a little dinky town called Bloomingburg. No one knows Bloomingburg. Unless they specifically had to go to Bloomingburg. But that's where I grew up, so I know Hudson Valley well. It's so I don't know where in Hudson Valley you're at, but glad you could join me today. Let's see. Carla, you are a realtor in Houston. Man, the Houston markets. That's been a crazy ride for you in Houston, hasn't it, Carla? I'm glad you could join me. Rashawn from Alabama, currently in Indiana, working as a realtor. I live in Indiana. I actually do. I live in Lafayette. That's where I'm broadcasting this pirate signal from right now. So good for you. What market are you in? Let me know what town you're in, Rashawn. I'm curious. Elizabeth, events company adding on marketing and advertising services this year. Okay, very good. Hello, Saman. Hello, all. Good to see you. From India. Very good. Glad you can join us. It is late there, isn't it? It is like in the middle of the day. It's like 13 hours. Wow, you're up early or haven't been to bed yet. CEO of a service-based business. Excellent. Very good. We should be able to help you today. Independent life insurance agent from Delaware. Hello, Frimpong. Good to see you. Glad you could join us today. Carla, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. It has been a crazy market down there for you. Suman, thank you, Mark, for hosting this session. Oh, this is my pleasure. This is my jam. I really just enjoy teaching, and it's interesting because people ask me like, well, what is it that you do for companies? And I really do help people. I help save them a lot of time because I spend most of my day in reading and research and just putting together different things that will help you guys. So I save a lot of time that you may not have to I'm going to give you just a different quick view of this is just a partial view of my library. I literally have almost about half a dozen of bookcases that are just like this of all the books that I have been through and read and studied and that's just the books. That doesn't even count the different pieces of research and other things that I do to make it relevant to you. So you don't have to do all the reading and research and stuff that I do. This is the stuff that I geek out on. I really, really enjoy doing this. In fact, if someone says, hey, Mark, you've got all the money you need, you don't ever have to work again, which I kind of do. I mean, I live pretty lean, but I have a great, I really just enjoy learning and I get to pass that on to you. So thank you for hanging out. It is absolutely my pleasure. Let's see. I am a strategic partner. I run a strategic partnership and coordination firm in Florida. Very good, Malachi. I'm glad you could be here. And Elizabeth, no way. I know Blooming. The Quick Way Diner. You're from Goshen. No kidding. That's funny. All right. Yep. I grew up knowing the Quick Way Diner. I actually, so here's interesting, fun part. There was a school in Bloomingburg, and I went to Bloomingburg School. It's a stone schoolhouse, and that's where I went to school. Yeah, you're like, dude, how old are you? I'm in my 50s, so that's why people. Okay, Rashawn, you're in Indy. All right, very good. I'm just about an hour north of you. Very good. In Lafayette, it's midnight, 1:30 a.m. Simon, yeah, I knew it had to be late. Was reading a book and joined this call, Mark. Okay, good. I'm glad you're here. All right. That's a lot of books. Yeah, it's a lot of books, and really you're only seeing like the top half, not even, probably top third, and the rest of them are there's a lot. I don't know how many I've got, but I've got a lot. It's probably close to maybe 1,000 or so. I have a problem. I have to stop buying them. All right, let's get to it. All right, thank you all for joining me. And here's the thing: I like it when you guys are chatty. I like it when you guys are putting content up. Don't feel like you're going to be interrupting me. If you have a question, go ahead and just put it in the chat. I promise I'll scroll back and try to get them all. So the worst question is the one that's not asked, and just start to think about different things that may come up for you, and I may ask them. If I went through something too quickly, yes, I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now. You will be getting the replay. So if you signed up for this on Eventbrite, through Eventbrite, and I have your email address, you will be getting a copy of the replay. Okay, some of you, if you are watching this live on YouTube, you will not be getting a replay because you'll be getting it there. But you also, I'm going to be sharing a couple of different things with you, regardless of where you're watching from, where you can stay in touch and ask questions down the road. So, all right, so let's get to it. So marketing magic, the whole point of marketing, right? One other quick note. I'm just going to ask you not to multitask. And I know some of you are here on your computers and on your phones. And just out of curiosity, could you help me answer a question? I'm really curious. How many of you are on your phone and how many of you are on a computer? I would be really interested because I was actually surprised to know how many people actually watch this on their phones. I was actually kind of surprised at that. So if you wouldn't mind, I'm just kind of taking an informal poll, but let me know how many of you are watching it on your phone versus how many are watching on your computer. I'm just interested in that. Laptop. Okay. Phone, Malachi. Okay. CPU. Okay. So probably, yeah, computer. Okay. Phone. Oh, interesting. Okay. So about half. Oh, phone is tipping the scales. All right. I'm just curious because there's, I've been looking at some different data, and there was a lot of people that had actually, I'm able to figure out who signs up on their phones and things like that. And I was actually surprised to know this. So you are probably seeing this on a different camera angle, and I'm trying to make it good for everybody, not just people who are watching on their phone, but also for people. So people who are on their laptop. So anyway, this is what I'm going to do. We're going to go into this. Please don't multitask. Please just try to stay plugged in as best that you can, because I know there's lots of different things to look at out there. But I promise you those TikTok videos will still be there when you're done. All right. So the job of your marketing is to create trust with your client avatar. That's it. I could probably end the webinar right here. Your job of your marketing is to create trust with your client avatar. And there's so much marketing that's being done out there that does not do that. That does not create trust. And this is so important. I don't care if you're a realtor. I don't care if you're in IT. I don't care what it is you're selling. If your person does not trust you, they will not buy from you. And think about this. I see a lot of folks out there who are really trying to be like the funny posting realtor, or the having pithy comments that are kind of funny, maybe a little racy, but at the end of the day, none of that stuff matters. None of that stuff matters. You know how much Coca-Cola spent on the Coca-Cola polar bears? Billions. And you know how much that translated into sales? Not much. They actually don't know, because they can't track it back to, oh, did you buy Coke because of the polar bears? They're like, no, the polar bears are cute, but yeah, it didn't matter. Is anybody old enough to remember the commercial? It was back in the very early 80s, maybe even late 70s, of this kid who's walking through this tunnel, and Mean Joe Green is walking through, limping through. He obviously just came out of a very heavy game, right? American football game. And he goes, hey, Mean Joe Green. He gives him a Coke and he says, thanks, kid. And he throws him his jersey. Does anybody remember that ad? Right? It was, I mean, every kid was like, oh my gosh, he got to meet Mean Joe Green and he got his jersey. And the big question was, did he really get to keep the jersey? And, is Mean Joe Green really like that? Like, that was the whole thing. How much additional Coca-Cola did it sell? Not much. The point is, we've gone so far in our marketing and our lead generation, just trying to be this creative, pithy thing and not developing or creating trust. So that is what we're going to be talking about today mostly. And we're going to be talking about some automations and different things that you can do. I can't get super granular on some of these just because there's so many different industries that are in here, but I'm just going to give you some tools to pull some threads on for you to investigate, okay? Because the true marketing magic is about creating and blending your automations and doing it in a way that makes people think that you are the authentic version of you that will create trust. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Let me know if this is making sense, because if without this right here, this piece right here, this isn't going to matter. And the fastest way, by the way, to demonstrate or create trust, the fastest way to create trust is to demonstrate competence with your avatar. So with the person who is most likely wanting to, who is most likely going to buy from you, they're going to buy from you because you're demonstrating competence. You're demonstrating that you know what you know, right? And you know it very, very well. All right. So I want you to start thinking about that now, is how can you demonstrate competence to your avatar? And how can you do that in a way which is going to separate you and differentiate you from everybody else in the market? Think about that. Differentiation is the key, because if you're going to be like a Me Too product to everybody else out there, and you're trying to do what everybody else is doing, you're not differentiating. You're just providing a Me Too product or service. There was realtors in certain markets that were providing moving vans for their customers, for their client avatar. And they could afford to do it because they were selling high dollar homes, right? And they're like, so, but think about it. Does that really differentiate that market, that realtor, by providing a moving van for a high dollar avatar? It doesn't, because high dollar avatars are going to get moving companies. They're not going to want to move the stuff themselves. So then they shifted, right? Then they shifted to providing a moving company, right, to doing that, right, which might cost $1,000 or something like that, and then the difference they might get paid by the individual. But the point is that they provided that because that was a differentiator for them. And whether if they sold a lower dollar home, to a different avatar, maybe they would provide a moving van, right? But these are the sorts of things that would differentiate people. The problem is differentiators like that can easily be copied. So how else can you differentiate yourself in your market? Well, things like demonstrating leadership, things like demonstrating that you know something, or you're always in front of the market, that your clients are your competition is always playing second fiddle to you. So being a leader in your market, in whatever that is, by providing information, by providing and demonstrating competence, that puts you out in front of everybody else. That puts you in front of everybody else. Okay. So I'm just want you to start thinking about how you can demonstrate that you know what you know really, really well to your ideal client, or customer. All right. So Suman says you have to be, let's see here. You have to be a tree, then a shadow to be real and build trust. Absolutely. Yeah, that's right. I had never heard it said that way. That's actually a very good way of saying that. Where did you hear that? Where have you heard that? That was actually really, really good. It sounds like a proverb. All right. So when it comes to, there's 7 ways, or there's 7 components to trust. There's 7 components to trust. And these 7 components are competence, character, and I'm going to get to the other 7 here in just a second. But the competence and character, I'm telling you right now, everything rises and falls on these 2 here. The fastest way to build trust is through demonstrating competence, demonstrating that you know what you know and that you know it really, really well. And we're going to be talking about your core values here in just a little bit, or I'm sorry, the 3 C's of business vision: core purpose, core values, and client avatar. But when you are really dialed into what it is that you know, because you know, like, you're known in that geographic area or that particular market or whatever it is, like, people know me as a strategist. People know me for, locally, they know me for being in real estate. And I can't change that for them because I was in real estate for like 20 years. And you're like, geez, how old are you? Well, yeah, I'm 53. So in my early 40s, I shifted over to being a strategist to, not quite my mid 40s. I switched over to being a strategist. And people like you know that, like, you know me for that, because this is what mental bandwidth I'm taking up for you. But for other people, they're always going to know me as a real estate person. Other people are going to know me for being a Marine, right? I was in the U.S. Marines for a while, and there's people, because of just different circumstances and things that I had done, different fundraisers and stuff that I had done, they know me for that, and I will never occupy any other mental bandwidth for them. And that's totally fine. But just understand, it's about you occupying the mental bandwidth, the mental real estate of these people, and then demonstrating that you know what you're talking about. That is really important. That's competence. Second is character. Now, when it comes to character, I'm telling you what, it won't matter how much competence that you demonstrate. If you are going to demonstrate a lack of character, that is the fastest way to destroy trust. It's the fastest way to destroy trust, is to demonstrate a lack of character. So you might be thinking, well, how does that work? Well, think about an attorney, right? Like, we've all seen these crime shows. And what's the first thing an attorney does on cross-examination, right? When the opposing attorney goes after the detective, right? They try to destroy their character. Right? It seems here like you've lied on reports before. It seems here, Mr. Scientist, that your science is flawed, or you have a drinking problem, or, hey, Mr. Politician, right? When politicians are attacking each other, what do? Seems like you had an affair. Seems like you cheated on an exam in the 3rd grade, right? All sorts of weird, goofy things, right? Back in the 80s, it was like, have you ever smoked pot? I didn't, but I did, I did, but I didn't inhale, right? Like, this is all this weird stuff that comes out in terms of character. So that's why when people are trying to assassinate character, you got to be really careful to guard your own. Like, for example, if I came on here and like I mentioned that I have a bride and 3 children, and then I say, hey guys, I got to hurry up and get out of here. I got a hot date, with my girlfriend. And you're like, does he really mean like his girlfriend? Because he mentioned he's got a wife. Like, I'm just saying, like, I don't have a girlfriend, but I'm just saying, if that was the case, you'd be like, dude, I don't care what I learned from him. Yeah, I'm going to learn from him, but I don't trust him. I don't trust him enough to buy from him for sure. So that's what I'm saying. You've got to be careful to guard your own character. And if you're, and this happens, there's a course that I hold. I'm holding it on Friday. Is your networking not working? So if you want to, if you're looking to advance your networking and take that to the next level, or maybe your networking is not working and you don't understand why, this is a component of it, by the way, is if you go to networking events and you drink too much, that may be a reason for people not to trust you. They may judge your character. And I'm just telling you, I'm not saying like you shouldn't drink. I don't generally drink in events like that just for a number of reasons. I have kind of a personal rule that I don't drink unless it's a Saturday and I don't have anything going on the next day. And unless my wife is around, right? Unless my wife is with me, my bride is with me, I don't drink, right? It's just a rule that I have. It keeps me out of trouble, and there's no question of my behavior or anything like that. Like I just, and not to mention, I just don't like to feel like I'm out of control, right? And that's, but if I'm home, I might have a glass of wine every now and again, but generally following those same two rules. But this is the thing, like demonstrating a lack of character can really hurt your networking as well. So this is what I want you to pay attention to, is how could you maybe be demonstrating a lack of character in those situations? A lack of caring, right? A lack of confidence, a lack of commitment, a lack of communication, and a lack of consistency. Those are all additional elements of trust, because people, again, have you ever heard the phrase that people don't know how much, they don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care? That is absolutely true. And when it comes to creating and generating trust, how about confidence trust? If I came in here and said, yeah, I'm going to kind of teach you a couple things today, maybe they'll work for you. I mean, sometimes they work for me, right? If I said something like that and I have no confidence, you're not going to trust me, right? Would you buy a car from someone who says, yeah, I mean, it should start most of the time? Of course not. You're not gonna buy a brand new car like that and spend $50,000 to $60,000 or 60, 70,000 euros on a vehicle like that. That's crazy. There's no confidence. You have to have confidence in the salesperson. You have to have confidence in the product. How about commitment trust? Do they commit? Are they committed to you? Are you committed to them? Are you committed to seeing through what it is that you're bringing to the table? Again, think about this. When you are committed and there's no other way but through that, there's some real power that comes from commitment. Right? About communication trust, that you can communicate not only effectively, but consistently and often, right? And then it comes back to, of course, to consistency trust, that you're going to show up the same way that's appropriate and showing up all the time consistently. These are all things around developing and creating trust. So if you feel like you're really good in one of these areas, but not great in maybe something else, like I'll tell you what, like for me, let's see, if I was going to self-rate myself as lower in any of these, I feel competence, character, caring, I feel pretty comfortable with confidence. I'll tell you, every now and again, I get a little crisis of confidence. Okay, maybe from a 1 to a 10, I might dip to like a 7. So that might be something I have to work on. Commitment, I'm usually very committed. Communication, I will tell you on communication, sometimes I do go on tangents, which you probably noticed already, right? But in terms of communication, I tend to over communicate, which can be a problem, right? I can say too much and some people are like, oh my gosh, dude, put the fries in the bag. Sometimes I do that, and I have to recognize that can be a weakness of mine. Sometimes I tell too many stories and people are like, oh my gosh, I just want the answer, right? So that is an issue of communications. But I would still say I'm probably a reasonable 7 or 8, very consistently on that. In consistency trust, I feel like I'm highly consistent. I feel like I show up every day as best as I can, very consistently. I don't waffle. But I will tell you, for any of my ADHD brothers and sisters out there, I know how hard consistency can be, especially if you're chasing the shiny objects out there. Is anybody else out there who chases the shiny objects? I'm going to talk about that here at the very end. Let's see. Rashawn? Oh, absolutely. It was my pleasure. It was my honor to have served. Suman, you're a great communicator, Mark. Well, thank you. And I will tell you this. For those of you who feel that you're not great at communicating, I was horrific, but not that long ago, about communication. And it wasn't about the knows and ums and ahs. That wasn't it. It was just, I feel like I didn't really have a voice. I didn't really know my voice, and it took me a while to find that voice. So for those of you who may be thinking about whether you're having struggles with communication, I'm telling you, volume really helps. And this is why, one of the main reasons why I do this in these sessions, because it helps me stay sharp. And I had a session last night, and several young men were kind of, I think they were trying to like, I don't know if they were trying to get me to do their homework or not, but it was kind of funny because they were like asking me very specific questions around like certain business theories. And I was like, oh, okay. It was really good that they were asking me. I mean, I feel like I managed it well, but these are the sorts of things that you become more comfortable with the more that you do them. And if they had hit me up even maybe 2 years ago, I probably would have taken more offense to it. And I don't even know that I would have fielded their answers. You know, like I would have just blown them off. So these are the sorts of things that you just get good at by volume. All right. So let's keep rocking and rolling here. Now, again, one of the things, we're going to get to the agenda here in just a second. But I want you to understand there's a difference between seeking knowledge to understand versus seeking knowledge to take action. I understand a lot of people come to me and they go, oh man, that was fantastic. I took so many notes, you know, like Elizabeth's like, hey, I took so many notes. And Frimpong was like, hey, yeah, this is great. I took pages of notes and all this different stuff. That's fine. It's fine to take notes, and I'm glad that you're taking notes. What I want you to do is I want you to devote yourself to one thing that you're going to take action on, even if it's just one thing. You don't have to try to implement 17 things. You're going to be much more effective taking action on one or two things and taking highly committed action to just one or two things rather than trying to do all 17. Okay? Can you commit to that at least? Just write in there, you're like, I commit. Like, I commit to taking some sort of action by the end of this, because there's going to be a lot of different things that we're going to be hit. Because the reality is this, you know, you can have the best, most efficient business, and you can be a paragon of virtue and have all sorts of trust developed with your clients, right? Your sales technique so dialed in that you could sell ice to Eskimos and voting booze to Castro. And the reality is you can still starve. So that is what we're going to be talking about today, is creating a lead generation machine that can really run and run well, regardless of what else that it is that you've got going on. Okay, so far Suman is committed and no one else. Where the rest of you at? You're not committing? You're not committing to taking action? Look, I'm not going to blow you up, but here's what I'm just going to say, though. I really want you to commit to taking some sort of action. All right, Elizabeth, there she is. All right, we got two. But the thing is, I do want you to commit to taking some sort of action on the other side of this. And I recognize, too, it may be tough for you to type if you guys are on your phone or you're driving or whatever. Carla commits. All right, very good. All right, thank you guys for playing full in. I just want to make sure that you guys are going to get some real good action activity out of this. I commit to one thing. Perfect, Frimpong. I love it. I love it. So this, what's on the screen right now, this is my first book. This is my very first book. It's The Time Wealthy Investor. This book is actually out of print now because I actually went and republished this book later on. And I was so incredibly proud of this book. It was my first book. It's kind of like your first child, you know, you're holding it in your hand. You're like, wow, that's my name on the cover, right? Well, all these different things. And this is I think it's 285 pages altogether. It was not a gimme book. Like, it was a lot of work. It took me almost 2 years from start to finish to get this thing written, to getting it formatted and edited and reformatted and published. And I had to rewrite the thing like 2 different times. It was just a lot. And then deciding on a cover and all this different stuff. And I was very, very proud of it. And I published the book and I put it out there on Amazon, almost like, you're welcome, world. You know, here you go. You are so welcome that I published this book for you. And after a fair amount of time, it was, several weeks of having the book on Amazon, I will tell you that my book sales were $0. Ugh. Oh my gosh. 2 years of effort and I had no book sales. None. And I'm not exaggerating. This is not an exaggeration. This is a very true story. I'm happy to show you the lack of sales if there was some way to actually show that. Right? I was like, man, this is going to be a lot harder than I thought. So I started learning the marketing side of things because I've never sold a book before, right? I actually had already created the Landlord Coach brand, but I really didn't make much of a push into the marketing. You're asking why? I'm not sure what you're asking, Simon. But Malachi says I commit. Okay, very good, Malachi. And Simon is asking why. I'm not sure what you're asking why about. But The landlord coach, are you asking why did my sales so bad? Yeah, I'm going to get to that here in a second. But here is so I created this brand under landlord coach. And if you go to landlordcoach.com, it's a great site. It's got all this information on there. And I was starting to like build this brand and create these funnels. And I had all these marketing and emailing ideas and just different things and all this cajoling, and started to put a lot of effort into selling these books. I paid for Amazon ads, I paid for Google ads, I paid for Facebook ads, and I had all this extra time, and my volume increased tremendously. So I spent about 3 months doing nothing but trying to sell these darn books, and I went from $0 in sales to, you ready, drum roll, $95.64. Oh my gosh. Now, yeah, the sales were zero, Suman, because I was not marketing it. What I did was I put a good product or service out there, but I did no marketing. I did no marketing whatsoever. And here I put all this effort and probably well over, I don't have the exact dollars in terms of what I spent, probably well over $2,000 in marketing to get back $95.64 in revenue. This isn't even profit. I was selling the books at like $7.99. Does anybody remember those free plus shipping offers, right? Where you basically, hey, here's the book for free, but you just got to pay for shipping. Well, the book was basically at cost at, in terms of $5 roughly for the book and roughly $3 for the shipping. It really was. I was making no money on the books whatsoever. I was barely breaking even. I was so incredibly discouraged. I mean, how many of you would have felt the same way? 2 years to write and publish a book and no sales, another 90 funnels and other people's courses that I bought and creating this brand and spending money and more money and everything else. I felt like the only people who were making money were the marketers. So this was really, really frustrating for me. So, this was, I was ready to give up at this point for sure. So this was like are you kidding me? Thing. But why didn't they buy the books? Why didn't they buy the books? Because what I was trying to sell them was information, not when they actually wanted transformation. I was trying to sell them books when what they wanted was their life to be better. I was selling them the trip and not the vacation, right? Think about the trip. The trip is getting you and your spouse to pack up half of your stuff and drag all of them through the airport and the luggage, and you've got 2 kids with you and everybody's complaining and that's the trip. When I should have been selling, hey, how awesome is it going to be to sit on the beach and have dinner on the beach with the people that you love? That's the vacation, right? I was selling them the 300-page book. Now, when I should have been selling them the features, the benefits, and the meaning, right? The benefits and the meaning are really what you need to be selling. So that's why, and now I'm going to take just a pause here for just a second, because I know I don't have a slide on this. I actually need to add it in there. But the difference here is the meaning is why people are going to want to buy something. The meaning, right? The features, the benefits, and the meaning. The features of the book it's got 300 pages. The benefits is that you'll learn to run a rental business a little bit better, or you'll learn to run your business a little bit better. That's a benefit. But the meaning is why people are going to spend money. The meaning is because you want to make a little bit more money, spend a little less time on doing the things that you hate, and really enjoy your life with the people that you love the most. That's meaning, right? People don't go to the store to buy a drill. They go to the store because they want a hole, right? And they don't just want a hole. They want a hole in the wall where they can hang a picture of their family that every time they look over, they go, wow, that's why I get out of bed in the morning, right? That's the meaning. That's the meaning. Am I making sense? So there's the feature, the benefit, and the meaning. And in your marketing, you have to be conveying the meaning. And I didn't do any of that when I was trying to sell my books. So the feature, the benefit, and the meaning, that is really, really important. So Shoshana, that's right. It's hard for me to see these little tiny words there. Again, 53-year-old eyeballs. So my apologies. Was the disconnect in part because they didn't connect your brand to the book? No, the difference, it wouldn't have mattered if I had connected my brand to the book. I don't know that it would have made a difference unless the brand was already very recognizable. The reason they didn't is because I was trying to sell them the sizzle, not the steak, right? Like they want the steak. They want to feel satiated after they ate. They want meaning. And I wasn't selling any of the meaning. I was selling them homework. Who in the world wants to buy homework, right? Like now I'm in a PhD program right now for organizational psychology, and I literally just started. So I'm, just 4 steps into the process. But right now, all I feel like I bought is homework. It's a lot of homework too, right? But it's been good. It's been good. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be much more, much more knowledgeable about the process of organizational behavior. But this is why, because again, it's the feature, the benefit, and the meaning. You have to sell the meaning. Now, you can't just give them the meaning without context. You can give them, hey, look, this is a book. Granted, it's 300 pages. There's a lot in here. So it's a really good resource thing. But at the end of the day, you don't have to sit and read the whole thing. You can read this by the chapter that you're most stuck on. That way you can say, okay, cool. Now this is the thing that I really need most help with. You can read just that chapter and get unstuck. And then once you're unstuck, you get a little bit more time freedom. You get a little bit more time wealth, right? Time wealthy investor. Now you can really read through the rest of it and now that you've got that toehold, and now you can really understand what it's like to be time wealthy. Do you think that approach would have gleaned a different result? It did. When I relaunched the same book, the Time Wealthy Investor 2.0, I updated some things, and that book did well, not as well as my last release. So I published this book, The Time Wealthy Advantage, in May, and it did far better. And the reason it did so much better is because I actually released it. I actually did a full release of the book. Okay. So the point is I had done very little to demonstrate trust for the avatar and demonstrate why they should do it. What was the meaning behind it? And that was really important. So here's just, again, this was actually under Landlord Coach when I was doing this back in 2017. I had very little revenues coming in, and then all of a sudden I started to shift up. I was making just under $10,000 in monthly revenues, and then I went over $17,000 a month in revenues. And the interesting thing was it was not by selling books. The books was a lead generation piece. And that's where I really switched things, right? So I just want to say to you that there was light at the end of the tunnel. And the reason I did not keep up with that trajectory is because I wanted to actually disconnect from the real estate coaching space. There's just a lot of ick. If anybody knows is in the real estate space and you see a lot of the coaching that's going on out there, there's just a lot of ick that's involved in that industry right now. So I just decided to disassociate myself from that. Malachi is asking... Oh, okay, you got a question, or you got a statement. Malachi is saying, yes, it makes sense. Don't sell the path of the way, but sell the purpose of the goal. Right. Sell them, again, like I said, don't sell them the trip, sell them the vacation. What is the meaning at the end of this that you're going to do? Again, it's not like, hey, I'm going to sell you this knife, right? And it's not about the knife. It's not about the sharpness of the edge. It's about what it can do, right? Like you can whittle a piece of stick if you want, right? Like whatever it is, but that's the thing that it does for you. That's the meaning behind it. Not necessarily the feature, the benefit, but the meaning. The feature could be, it's got 400 horsepower. Great. What does that mean? The benefit, the feature is it's got 400 horsepower. The benefit is it goes from 0 to 60 in 4 seconds. Right? And the meaning is that you're going to feel like the coolest dude on the block, right? When you smash down on the gas and you just hear the Hemi engine roar, and you're just going to feel like a really cool dude or a really cool gal, right? That's the meaning. And people are going to buy meaning far more than they're going to buy the features and the benefits. Some people will buy for your features, right? Because they can translate it into the meaning, but you have to make that connection for them, especially in your marketing. And that is the real magic, by the way. I know I reference this as marketing magic. That's it. It's connecting those features and those benefits to the meaning. Okay. So that's really it. Let's get into, I just want to get into the agenda for the rest of the context today. I wanted to get those things out there because I know some people can't stay on for the whole thing, but we're going to talk about the systems, and then we're going to talk about the psychology. Then we're going to get into the 4 core functions of business, and then we're going to talk about the real marketing magic around having controlled growth, and then we're going to get into the resources. So we're going to get into all this stuff. I know if you guys can't stick around, I added a few things, so it probably is going to go a little bit longer than an hour and 15 minutes, but I promise you this is all going to be very, very much worth it for you. This is the book, The Time Wealthy Advantage, that I had mentioned. This was the last book that I published in May, and I wrote 4 little guides after that. And if you are in the United States and you'd like to get a copy, and you'd like a signed copy, you just go to strategicboardroom.com and you can buy it right on the website. It's literally it says like buy book or something like that. It's pretty straightforward. If you're outside the United States, however, and you'd like to buy it, the best way for you to get it is to go on Amazon. They have a distribution methodology or distribution system that's way better than mine. So I would recommend that you go to that. But I'm not here to promote the book. I just wanted to let you know that where it came from, because we're going to be talking about the Viper framework. Now, the Viper framework, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but it is, I am going to go through specifically two main areas, which are around vision and infrastructure. I'll explain the rest of them, but vision and infrastructure is where we're going to be spending most of the time. So the Viper methodology is an acronym for vision, infrastructure, process, execution, and reporting. Vision, infrastructure, process, execution, and reporting. And this is the framework that you're going to use to build a business and life around, right? I'm a life and business strategist, and this is the framework that you're going to use to build out your life and build out your business. This will make sense here in just a hot second. So as you're looking for your vision, the vision has two components. It's got personal vision and it's got business vision. So, let me take Malachi's comment down. So you've got personal vision and you've got business vision. The personal vision is going to ask you basically one basic question. Where do you want to go? Malachi, where do you want to go? Shoshana, where do you want to go? Suman, where do you want to go? From Pong, where do you want to go? And when you start to ask those questions, like Carla, where do you want to go? Where do you want to go in life? Where do you want to go if your life was not defined by income generation? And you might say, well, like, for example, if you wake up with $30 million or 30 million euros or 30 million pounds in your bank account tomorrow morning, what is your life going to be like? And you might be thinking, well, wow, I could go buy this stuff. I take all these trips, right? But keep in mind, especially if you're fairly young, you're going to have to be a good steward of that money because it will run out, right? So after you go and buy the bougie things and you take all the trips and whatever, what is your day-to-day life going to look like if it did not rely on income generation? Okay. Next is the business vision. And the business vision is cool. Now that you've developed and determined what this life is going to be or what it's going to look like, is great. How are we going to get there? What's that going to look like from there? So and it's interesting because I hear especially a lot of young people, they're going to ask, they're going to say, all right, well, what is, like for example, yeah, let me go ahead and younger people, and I especially said this too, is, yeah, let me go ahead and make that $50,000 a month, and then I'll worry about that better life on the other side. Well, the problem with that is that, I've sat in masterminds and different classes with people who are making, 100,000, sometimes 6 and 7 figures a month. Like that was what they were netting, and they were miserable. They were absolutely miserable. And it's interesting because what they were doing is they were confusing achievement for fulfillment. And they were just never going to get there. So I just want to encourage you, like, especially if you're younger in your 20s or 30s, and I really want you to spend that time on your personal vision. Because the danger in creating a business vision before you create a personal vision is that you end up creating a life that exists to serve the business. And I'm just telling you that sucks. And I've been down that road, and your business is just never going to love you the way that you love it. So what we're going to uncover is now the personal vision piece. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on today because I just had to cut that out. But I just really do want you to think about, like, what would you want your life to look like? What are certain things that you look forward to? Who would you want to be in that life with you? Right? Start thinking about that. From the 3 C's of business vision, we're going to get right into business vision here. Is these understanding these 3 elements here. These 3 C's of business vision are going to make your marketing stand out and massively more effective and massively more efficient. So understanding that you probably don't want to send any more money to Facebook or Google than you have to, which is smart, then you really need to get dialed into these 3 elements. And most times when I get invited into a client's office and I ask them about these 3 things, many times either one or all of them are not very well defined. They're not very clear. So let's get into them. They are core purpose, core values, and client avatar. Let's unpack core purpose. Core purpose is specifically, it's going to say, okay, what business are you in and what problems do you solve? And it's important that you are specific. So when you say, I can't remember, was it Carla that you're a realtor in Houston? I may say to Carla, okay, what do you sell? Are you a residential realtor? Are you a commercial realtor? Do you do property management? Because many states require property managers to have the real estate license. I'm a broker, right? Because I have a property management company, and I'm the managing broker. So, like, what do you do with that? And are you what specifically do you work? Do you mostly do corporate rentals? Do you mostly do again, residential sales? Do you do industrial? Like, what are the sorts of things? And it's really important that you get very, very clear about what business that you're in and what problems do you solve. And this is also how you differentiate yourself, is in your core purpose. Because if you're not going to be differentiated in your core purpose, people are not, they have a choice. They're going to say, well, I'm going to do business with this person over there because I don't know. I think I know them a little bit better than I know you. Really? That's how they're making the decision? Or their name is just a little bit more recognizable? That's a problem. That's a real problem. And if you're not differentiated, if you don't own that name or that market space, that's going to be really important for you. Okay. Is to really get dialed in that core purpose. When you're looking at your core values are what matters to you about this business, and how would the world be worse off if you went out of business? So when you're starting to think about your core values, and you might be thinking like, oh man, this is super squishy. This is such a waste of time. Listen, I'm saying if you're here because you're trying to build a business and you're trying to grow, I mean, understanding if you're here because you're trying to learn marketing, because you're trying to grow, you're trying to look for better tips to do this. When you define your core values, you also define your company culture. And your company culture and your company brand are inextricably linked. So think about that. There are companies that people just love to go to because they love the company culture. And the company culture was defined by the company core values, because the people who run the place have a set of core values that they live by. And if they're smart, they've identified them and written them down. That is what happens when you have a very strong company culture. And when you look at the big companies that have a very strong culture, like Netflix and Southwest Airlines and even Starbucks, right? They have a specific company culture, and they've defined that company culture because they have very defined core values. And core values, I'm just telling you, it's not anything that's super squishy. You need to take the time to do this, because here's the problem with that. If you ever hope to build a business or even build a team that can run without your constant every moment input, they are going to want a set of core values so they know how to make decisions that when you're not around. And that's crucial. So I really want you, and you might be thinking, well, how do I define my core values? Well, look at yourself personally. Look at yourself personally. So in other words, let's say Suman, okay? Let's say Suman is, he's going to say, okay, well, if he's ever had a friend, okay, he's ever had a friend that wandered off the reservation that he couldn't follow, right? For example, like had a friend that was starting to steal things. Like, dude, I'm not about that. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're heading down a path I can't follow. Or maybe they were starting to be dishonest. Or maybe they were starting to lie to you, right? Or they were doing one thing and saying another. They were out of integrity, right? Now, those are pretty easy examples. But those violations are so important to Suman, or maybe to you, that's a violation that you won't follow. That represents a core value. So that's how you start to define those sorts of things, right? So because it's a violation of a core value, that's probably a core value that means enough to you to bring it to your business, okay? So I want you to think about that. A core value, absolutely, core values are the soul of the company. It's great. It helps identify the DNA of the company. Our core values, so Suman has them identified. Our core values are heartful, mindful, and powerful. These are the things that I practice daily. Simple as that. Excellent. I love that. And for me, so I break them down a little bit differently. Like for example, one of our core values that we went over our meeting today was creating legends. Now, creating legends, that doesn't mean that I'm trying to create a legend out of Shoshana, right? But I want to create a legend in the mind of other people to say, oh, wow, like, yeah, this person is really, really good at what they do. Right? And creating legends in the minds of others. It's that positive gossip that you create. Like, so that is one of our core values, is creating legends. So like, these are the sorts of things that are really, really important to consider when you're creating your company core values. Sorry, I am having a heck of a time with my mouse today. Okay, so let's get into so we talked about core purpose, we talked about client avatar, or we talked about core values. Oh my goodness, core purpose, core values. Now let's talk about client avatar. Client avatar is who specifically and ideally do you want to serve, and what are their geographics, their demographics, and their psychographics. So if you guys have an ideal avatar, please write it in the comment section. Write in the comment section right now who that is. Like is it a person who does X, Y, or Z? Or you say, nope, I really kind of have to work on my client avatar. This is the audience participation part of this here, right? But like what are their geographics, their demographics, and their psychographics? And be really specific about these individuals. Or sometimes it's a couple. Sometimes it's a team. Sometimes it might be a board of directors, right? Or you like working with sales teams, or you like working with marketing teams, or you like working with coaches. You like working with husband and wives. I like working with husband and wife couples who are in business for themselves, who have kids at home, who are really, really busy, and they want something better for their lives. That's what I can do. I help teach and educate so they don't have to spend so much time trying to learn and educate. I can help them and then distill that down into what the next thing is for them. So it goes from classroom to boardroom. That's how I help people, right? Do you think I've got that dialed in? Yeah, I do. I really like helping people in the service industry. That's something that I've done for hundreds of people now, hundreds of different businesses now. And that's why I really enjoy doing that, right? So I was, just stopping and thinking about this, like, I almost said dozens of people, but I had to translate that from dozens to hundreds because it has been so many people that I've helped at this point. Because now I try to downplay it, but I'm like, no, it's important that I step into that leadership because I have helped that many people. And because I was really specific in the geographics, demographics, and psychographics in terms of who I wanted to help and how I wanted to reach them. So geographics is straightforward. It's where they are. Demographics is who they are. And psychographics is how they think and how they buy. And the demographics, by the way, these are all things like, are they married? Are they single? Are they, do they have kids at home? Things like that. Okay, good. I'm getting some answers here. So for the client avatar. Okay, Frimpong, that's great. That's great. So Frimpong says, I have no idea who an avatar can be. That's okay. That's good though. Like, it's good that you're starting to think about this now, because if you're thinking like everybody needs this, then no one will need this. And that's the problem. You're not going to have any pricing power if you're not really sure. So that's okay. Thank you for being authentic. Gen Z and millennials are my client avatar who are seeking insights and relationship. That's great. That's a great start, Suman. But we need more, right? We need more out of what that means and tie that into a core purpose. That's really good. Single Gen X women and sandwich generation, but I need to further refine this. Exactly, Shoshana. That's good. But it's a really, really good start, right? Really, really good start. All right. So when you're thinking about the demographics, again, are they married? Are they single? Are they rich? Are they poor? Are they old? Are they young? Those are the demographics. Psychographics is how they think and how they buy. To break down the psychographics, I want you to think Aaliyah. Their attitudes, their lifestyles, their interests, and their aspirations and goals. So think about that. What are their attitudes on life? What are their attitudes on different things? What lifestyle do they live? Do they travel a lot? Are they homebodies? Do they always buy the latest tech? Right? Are they early adopters, or they tend to wait? Those are the sorts of things I want you to start to think about. Their interests. What kind of thing are they interested in? Are they interested in American football? Are they interested in, European football? Are they interested in World Cup? Are they interested in NASCAR? Or are they interested in Formula One? Like, what sort of interest do they have? And if you knew their goals, if you knew their aspirations, if you knew they wanted to go back to school, if you knew that they wanted to have children, if you knew that they wanted to be able to travel at some point in their life, do you think that knowing their aspirations and goals would be helpful? Absolutely it would, because then you can sell them meaning. Remember that. You can sell them meaning, and that's where it's going to come back to that. All right, so we covered the 3 C's of business vision: core purpose, core values, and client avatar. If you get nothing else from today's webinar, from today's session, please spend the time getting clear on these 3 things, because that's going to help your marketing more than any other thing. All right, so that's it there. So now we've covered vision, and that is the vision piece. Now we're going to get into the infrastructure of the Viper methodology. The infrastructure is the bones of the business. It's your desks, it's your chairs, it's your software, it's your phone systems, it's your websites, and things like that. So I'm going to give you some specific examples, easy for me to say, some specific examples that's going to relate infrastructure to lead generation and marketing. Okay. And that's going to be something around like CRM, your customer resource management software. And there's just different software systems, like just some examples are Pipedrive, Go High Level, HubSpot, and Monday.com. These are really good CRM. Another one that I'm going to talk about here in a second is Apollo, but because that's got a built-in CRM as well. I will tell you that Salesforce is like the 800-pound gorilla of CRM, but it is so expensive. I'm just going to be honest with you, for most small business owners and most entrepreneurs, everything that I put on the screen is probably just as good an option. Now, Salesforce has all these different automations and different things and integrations. I just think it's massive overkill for what you're trying to do with a CRM. But then you're looking at sourcing, and sourcing is finding the people that you want to work with, or finding other people who might be interested in what you have to buy or sell to, right? And sourcing is like LinkedIn Navigator. I'm not really a fan of LinkedIn Navigator. It does the job, but I think like Apollo.io is really powerful. I think for what LinkedIn Navigator is, I think it's a little expensive. For Apollo.io, I think you get a lot more juice from the squeeze. If you use them together though, you might spend, I think, probably about $150 between them together per month. You would pretty much have all the sourcing that you need locked up between those two applications. Lead IQ is another choice between that and Apollo, but I really like Apollo. It seems to really have some really good reviews, and I've used it a little bit. I haven't used it a lot, just because of the type of nature of people that I tend to attract. But for some people that have used it, that I have worked with, they really do like it. And then there's some automations and different integration software, right? And these are things like MailChimp, Constant Contact. That's for your email stuff. That's for your email that's getting sent out in automations and things like that, and your integrations. And then you've got different integration softwares like Zapier and Odo or Odoo. I'm not sure actually how you pronounce it. You can pronounce it any way you like, but Odo, whatever. Those are basically what they're doing is they're integrating the software systems into your existing framework. So all of this stuff that I'm talking about with infrastructure is really, really important. I'm not going to get into the weeds on this stuff because your business is going to take a lot of different types of automations and integrations. And this is the sort of thing that I've been helping people out with, because this is absolutely critical. And it's not just focusing on their operational functions. This is also focusing on their marketing functions. So these are the sorts of things, these things here, all of this infrastructure is really important. So you might be asking, well, why does vision come first? If the infrastructure is so important, why doesn't infrastructure come first? Well, the reason is this, because remember, the main circuit breaker is your personal vision. And then you're going to create your business vision that's in alignment with that personal vision. If your personal vision, let's say for argument's sake, Carla let's say that her personal vision is to lay on the beach in Spain for 2 months out of the year, rubbing cocoa butter on her belly. Okay. Well, if she built an infrastructure that's going to require her to return emails and phone calls in a timely manner, that's going to be a horrible experience for her when she's trying to lay on the beach, rubbing cocoa butter on her belly, right? So vision does come first, and you're going to be building an infrastructure that stays in alignment with your vision for the future, right? So I just want to make sure you think about it in that order. So in the rest of the Viper framework, I'll take it. Okay, well, now we know that you've got, we kind of get a sense of what Carla's vision is for the future. Excellent. Let's see. I got a couple people saying I have too many ideas of who my avatar can be. And Malachi, that'll be helpful if you can dial in your core purpose. That tells me that your core purpose might not be very well defined. And if it's not well defined, that's where you can get really, really fragmented in your client avatar. And it doesn't mean you can't serve one avatar. And then once you serve that one avatar and do really, really well, then you can create automations around that and then go and switch over to another avatar. I don't love that approach because I think it does start to get fragmented, but but find the avatar where generally they're going to probably have the most money and where you can make the most impact. Right now, it's not always about money for me. It's about impact. I feel like I've done very well by focusing more on impact than money, but it just depends because money is a factor. If there's one avatar that has substantially more money and will allow you to grow and then serve the other avatar, that would be the way that I would go. And that's exactly what Tesla did. Think about that. Tesla, when they first came on the market, were they priced low or high? They were priced very high, right? And they I think their initial cars were like $250,000. And then they started bringing it down and they started selling $70,000 vehicles. So they used all that leverage from all that money coming in the early days to be able to market later on to customers who were more budget focused. So think about that approach as a strategy. Again, I have too many ideas. No, all good. Shoshana, LinkedIn feels like a massive dumpster fire. It requires a lot of coffee on my part. Yeah, it is. I'm not a fan. I think it's expensive, and I think the data. I will say this: Apollo IO, the data are not always the best. So it can get you emails, it can get you phone numbers and things like that. LinkedIn Navigator, it just feels like it's very closed off. It's hard to get information out of it. Like the information is better, but it's also very limited because it's specific to LinkedIn, whereas Apollo IO kind of searches the entire internet. So I'm just not a fan. I'm not a fan of LinkedIn to begin with, to be honest with you. It was really, every time I get on, someone's like trying to sell me dental insurance. I'm like, why do my teeth look that bad? I don't think so, but whatever. All right. So if someone is a LinkedIn top voice, your post gets a massive boost. Yep, that is true. Okay. So yes, and for some people, they absolutely love LinkedIn, and I'm not going to tell you to stop. It's just, for me, it is, I feel like I go in there and that's where all hope goes to die. All right. So, so we talked about vision, we talked about infrastructure. Let's talk about process. Process is simply how you do stuff, right? It's there's two components to process, which is tactical and strategic. We are going to pick up the pace a little bit just because this is stuff that's not as relevant to you in the marketing piece, but I do want to help put all this together in terms of the Viper framework. So we talked about vision, we talked about infrastructure, this is process. There's tactical process and strategic process. Tactical process is about, how you do stuff. It's your standard operating procedures, your checklists, your day-to-day activities, right? Just your opening procedures, your closing procedures, how you answer the phone, things like that, right? If I drew a box around infrastructure and tactical process, that's the system. That's the system that you just built for your organization. But the thing is, a system, right? Like that's the boat, that's the warship that you just built. Now you want to take that ship out of the harbor, right? Otherwise, you're just going to let it get banged around on the harbor by the economic winds of whatever blows through. So strategic planning is what, and now you're saying, cool, we're going to take that ship out of the harbor and we're going to make some trouble, right? So the strategic planning involves three components. It involves people, purpose, and promotion. And the people, purpose, and promotion, people is just who you need, right? It might be people outside your organization that you might need help with. Might be people inside your organization. It could be your vendors. Could be your not only your vendors but your subcontractors, right? That would be, or suppliers. So, but the people outside could also be the people you're trying to sell to, right? The purpose could be to expand market share. It could be to launch a new product or service into a completely new market. Things like that, right? So those are different things, which, launching a product or service could be in the same market, or you could be going into a new market entirely with an existing product or service. Same thing. It's all around strategic purpose. Now, again, strategic purpose also has to align with what? It has to align with your core purpose, which is what you learned in your business vision: core purpose, core values, and client avatar. This stuff starts to loop back on itself. So I'm just saying, your core purpose, you can't be like Starbucks and sell chainsaws, because that would be weird, right? Starbucks doesn't sell chainsaws, it sells coffee. And if you started selling chainsaws, you're like, well, why are you selling chainsaws? You're like, because we can. I'm like, yeah, but that's weird, right? The core purpose doesn't align. Otherwise, the confused mind will always say no. And in marketing, you have to remember that. The confused mind will say no. So you have to make sure that it's as clear as possible from all aspects of your organization. All right, the last piece is promotion, and promotion is just letting people know what it is that you're doing. It's promoting it outwardly through your marketing and your advertising and your networking and all those things, but also telling the people inside your organization what is it you're doing. over and over. It's kind of like telling the teenager to take the trash out. You have to do it a lot, right? Both outward and inward, right? You just have to repeat yourself often, because that's part of promotion. So that's the strategic planning part, and that's part of process. And that is both tactical and strategic. So the last piece here is execution. A good plan violently executed now is better than the perfect plan executed next week, was something said by General George S. Patton. And the reason I'm bringing this up is execution has its own component, because most plans fall apart in execution. It's because having too many priorities has the same impact as having none. So for those of you who are on the call, who have that list of 37 things that they're going to do today, I know who you are. I know who you are, because I am one of them, right? I have to go back and go, oh my gosh, I have too many things on my to-do list, right? The problem is I've got too many priorities, so I treat them all like a priority, and then therefore I have no actual priorities. So this is where I want you to think that, where I want you to start to break things down into what's called a daily 5. The daily 5 are up to 5 highly specific actions that you can take that are going to move the needle towards your vision. Now here, if you're here because you want to grow your business and you're trying to grow your business, it's up to 5 highly specific actions that you need to take towards your marketing. That's where most of your actions and activities have to lie. If I don't make this point later, I'm going to make it now, is that about 60 to 70% of your daily activities have to be around marketing, and they need to be part of your daily 5. And what I mean by, again, notice that it's highly specific. Now for me, I like a daily 3, right? Today, this is part of my daily 3 because it lets people know that I'm out there, lets people know that what it is that I do. It's a marketing component for me. It demonstrates competence. I'm creating trust, right? And you're like, why is he being so weird about it? Why is he being so transparent? Because I'm trying to teach you. This is how it's done. And some people have already left. Well, I guess some people came back. Oh, somebody else just came back. All right. But my point is, like, people will leave and go because I'm not their brand of whiskey. And that's all right. Because keep in mind, your marketing has to be magnetic. Now, do magnets attract everything? No. Magnets do not attract everything. Magnets attract ferrous metals. They don't attract non-ferrous metals. They don't attract copper, right? They don't attract nickel, I'm pretty sure, right? But they do attract steel, right? And there's certain other types of metal that they do attract. They don't attract gold, doesn't attract silver, right? So my point is that is really, really important that you have to consider in your marketing, that you want to be magnetic. You want to attract certain people, but magnets also do what? Magnets also repel. So I want to be attracting the people I do want to attract, and I want to repel the people that don't want to be around me. And that's fine. That's about being magnetic. So when I'm having these very specific actions, I want to make sure that they're very well defined. Again, for me, I like a daily 3. A daily 3 works far better than a daily 5. So I want to be really specific in my actions in terms of what that is. The last piece is reporting in the Viper methodology, and that's lead metrics and lag metrics. Lead metrics are based on your actions and activities, and your lag metrics are based on the results of those actions and activities. So what do you have the most control over? Do you have any control over the results? No, you have no control over the results. I don't have any control over who signed up and who showed up. I have none. All I can do is market it and then provide the most amount of value that I can. I've had very few people actually drop off. Some people dropped off and I guess they came back. But the point is that which is interesting, because when you think about that, that's where people, they start to focus on the results and not necessarily what it is that they're doing. So for those of you, again, like for right now, I want you to think about some of you who have goals. How many of you, but just say, if you don't, that's okay. Say, yes or no, that yes, I have goals for the new year, or no, I don't have goals for the new year. That's okay, Marcy. We were talking mostly about you, Marcy, so it's okay. So now it's going to be a little bit awkward now that you're here. No, I'm just kidding, right? But I'm glad to have you join us, Marcy. So I'm seeing Shoshana, yes, has goals for coming into the new year. Marcy, yes, has goals for the new year. Great. That's perfect. So I'm going to ask you to think about this. I want you to think about this. For those of you who maybe can answer, is Elizabeth saying yes? Okay, you have goals for the new year. Perfect. Are your goals results goals? Or are they results metrics? Or are they lead metrics, actions and activities? So here's the difference. Many people make goals around results, which is fine. I'm not saying that's wrong. But you really need to have goals based on activity. Do you understand why? Because if you don't have goals based on activity, you're never going to know how you're getting the results that you need to be doing. Like if you're saying, hey, look, I'm going to be, or you're trying to reach. So if you're saying like, hey, I want to get 6-pack abs, you don't get 6-pack abs by just going to the gym. You get 6-pack abs by what you do in the kitchen, right? You get your abs in the kitchen. That's what I'm saying. Like so you have to think about the actions and activities that you're doing so you can monitor and track those things. Because if you're not getting the results that you want, all you have to do is look at the actions and activities. Does that make sense? So I want you, if you have some goals that are based on result metrics, that's fine. But I want you to also create some goals that are around activity metrics. Does that make sense? Just say, makes sense. I don't have goals for the new year. That's okay, Frimpong. Okay, just it's important that you have goals that are also tied to the actions and activities, not just the results. So if you take nothing else away, make sure you do that. All right, so that is the Viper framework. And now we talked about the systems. Now let's talk about psychology. So this is lessons on management, habits and goals. Habits, activities lead to my goals. That's exactly right. Please repeat it again. Yeah, so basically what I'm saying is for that is I want you to have goals, not just on the results that you want. I want you to put goals on the actions and activities that will lead to those results. So in other words, you're going to say, well, I'm going to, in the context of marketing, I'm going to have scraping software that's going to scrape 1,000 new emails every week, and I'm going to make sure I send out that 1,000 emails every week. That would be a lot, but that would be actions and activities, right? You can send out emails. You don't have any control over how many people respond to those emails, but sending out emails, that is an action activity that you can control. All right. So that is, there we go. There's an example, Marcy. All right. So again, actions and activities versus results. So let's look at psychology. If you guys need more results or more examples, let me know. All right. So systems are important, but the systems are only going to get you so far. This is why we have systems in psychology, right? This is the S&P approach that I take to business. Systems and psychology. So psychology has both an individual and personal component and a business and organizational component. In the personal side, you're looking at self-worth and self-management and limiting beliefs and things like that. Your business side has external psychology and internal psychology. Let's look at the business psychology in greater detail, just for the sake of today's lesson. So you got internal and external. Internal psychology are things like management and leadership. Management and leadership are incredibly important because if you've ever worked for bad managers or bad leaders, you know how horrible that can be working for a business like that. When you're looking at external psychology, you're looking at things like dealing with vendors and negotiations. You're even looking at things like politics, which are absolutely, the bigger you grow your business, that is absolutely important. And then you're going to looking at things like buying psychology. So I'm going to spend a few minutes on buying psychology because that's going to matter in terms of your marketing efforts. So here's the things that I want you to pay attention to. I'm going to take myself down so you can read this and take a screenshot of this. All right. And to take some water there. But what I want you to do is take a screenshot of this and realize that there are 15 reasons why people buy. That is to make money, save time, avoid effort, escape pain. Escaping pain can be emotional pain, physical pain, right? Spiritual pain, possibly. More comfort, better health. And keep in mind that could mean less stress. They will buy to feel more love, to gain praise, increase their status. They will buy for truth, especially if they have felt lied to in the past. They will buy for growth. That could be personal growth. That could be for knowledge. That could be, again, for spiritual growth. That could be for novelty, just because something is new. Again, who of you has to have the latest iPhone or whatever vehicle is new, right? More control, more perceived control, and also to be in contribution to others. So what I want you to do here is I want you to take this list and I want you to think of all the ways for each of these 15 reasons how you help someone directly or indirectly help them make money. How do you help them directly or indirectly help them make money? And I want you to come up with as many reasons as you possibly can. And don't stop at one or two. Try to fill up a page. How do you help people directly or indirectly save money? How do you help people directly or indirectly help them increase their status with their tribe, right? How do you help them feel more love directly or indirectly, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. And the more reasons that you can come up with is going to allow you to open up different avenues in your mind for when you're trying to market to people rather than just the same, well, I help people, I help them make more money. in the early days, that's what I told people, and I did as a strategist, as I helped them make more money, right? Then I realized, no, I really helped them save time. I mean, yeah, I do help them save money, but really I help them save time because what I do is with all this knowledge and strategy that I have, I can say, okay, that's important, but that's not as important. Your bigger fire is over here right now because that's something that you need to be focusing on, right? So I take them out of the classroom and move them into the boardroom, and I can help them make a lot more traction. I help them save a lot of time. Eventually, they may have to learn other aspects, but it keeps them from wandering. I offer them a framework to help make things a lot easier. So this is, and the reason why I can speak so adeptly about my avatar in this way is because I have been through this exercise dozens of times, as I'm like ripping my headset off, dozens of times. I cannot tell you how important this exercise is to go through this. So again, take this list, go through as many different ways as you possibly can, how you help them make money, save time, avoid effort, escape pain, right? I know this list so well because I've been through it so many times, right? So that is your homework for today. All right, so your job, again, is to create trust with your client avatar. That's what we talked about, right? So that's the psychology side of things. Now we're going to talk about the 4 core functions of business. This has to be true in every business. And it's the 4 core functions are lead generation, sales, operations, and accounting. And your customer's journey happens in this order. Your customer's journey happens through your company in this order. First lead gen, then sales, then operations, and accounting. So I want you to think about that when you're thinking about how you're going to market to your avatar and how you're going to communicate with your avatar. And this is where the marketing magic really comes in. Is again, your job is to create trust with your client avatar. They have showed up. They've showed up through your lead generation. You've sold them this during the sales process. You've closed the loop. You've closed the conversation. Now you're in the operations and fulfillment function, right? All of these things are ways that you can either create or destroy trust. And then finally is in the billing, right? Billing and making sure you're collecting money. And of course, paying your vendors, right? These are all things that are important. So first and foremost, have a product or service for a client avatar who aligns with your core values. That's pretty foundational. Again, we talked about that in the 3 C's of business vision. And then you're going to deliver massive value to them over and over and over again. And this is a really important point. The price that you charge has to be far less than the value you deliver. The price you charge has to be far less than the value you deliver. That is important. Now, who determines the value? You or your avatar? Your avatar determines the value. And here's the thing. If your price equals your value, you are on the chopping block. You are on the chopping block. I charged nothing for you guys to be here today, right? And guess what? Not everybody stayed because they didn't see what I had to say was valuable. And that's okay. Again, I'm not everybody's brand of whiskey. Totally fine. But what I'm saying is, when you start to think about this, I use a metaphor about drinking, and I don't really even drink that much or even drink. I don't think I had anything to drink in 2025 now I think about it. But as you deliver the massive value to them over and over and over again, that is where you are continually raising your value over and above your price. And that is because the minute your value and your price are matched, that's when you're on the chopping block. So I'm just telling you, you have to make sure that you're always increasing your value by bringing more things to the table, by doing more. Again, you can have a premium price, just make sure the value is far in excess of that, right? Think about the value that people get for buying a Mercedes, right? Think of the value that people get for buying a Ferrari, or think about the value that people get for going to and staying in a Ritz-Carlton, right? These are all things, or the Four Seasons or whatever, right? These are the sorts of things that you have to think about, is the value, the prestige, the service and everything else that they get for being a part of whatever that is, that tribe that owns that thing or goes to that place or eats at this restaurant, whatever it is, there is real value in there that's far in excess of the price. That's why people continue to go there. So this is also, in the way that you can do this is by creating trust triggers. Now, there are things that create trust. Okay. Now we talked about the 7 things around, or the 7 elements of that will create trust, but these are things that will trigger trust, right? Things like authority, literally being an author. So for those of you who are maybe thinking about writing a book, I have a course that's actually about book writing. You can find it on my website. It's strategicboardroom.com. But you can go in there and there's a free version of it. You can just get started and then you can demonstrate your authority. I have written 8 books and published 8 books, and you can find 7 out of those 8 books on Amazon, right? Or, various places. But my point is, it demonstrates my authority that I know what I'm talking about. My affinity, right? Affinity is correlation, right? Where people have familiarity based on frequency. That's a very common one, right? You see this person who shows up everywhere, like because you're constantly being redirected to their site. Affiliation is like being associated or connected to someone. So like maybe they're part of the WNBA or the NFL or something like that. So there's some sort of affiliation. That's like affiliate marketing. Endorsement is another thing where it's kind of like affiliation, but endorsement would be like a celebrity that endorses this product. Demonstration, again, we talked about demonstration, about demonstrating competence, which is a trust trigger, and also being vulnerable. But this can absolutely backfire on you if you're like just pretending. But like one of the things that I had noticed is that one time I got up in front of a real estate group, and I kind of mentioned that I really made a bunch of mistakes when I was, prior to writing the book. And I was a little embarrassed to admit it. And I can't believe I actually said it in front of the room, because you're supposed to be in front of the room. Like, you're the guru, you're the person who's supposed to know it all. Right. And I got up there and I was like, man, I kind of messed up on this in the early days. And man, I had so many people after the fact come back to me and say, man, I feel like I was the only one that had that problem. So I didn't really do it for any other reason. Like, it wasn't fake vulnerability. I just kind of mentioned it in passing. And man, I had everybody that trusted me in that moment. And I didn't know it. I didn't realize it. And that's the thing about trust, is that if people don't trust you, you won't know, and they won't buy from you, and you won't know why. Right. So we also talked about different layers of trust around competence, character, caring, confidence, commitment, and communication and consistency. Again, we're not going to go back through all these things, but again, these are really, really important areas, because as you're going to be incorporating these things into the 4 core functions of business around lead generation, sales, operations, and accounting, like it's important that you think about this in terms of your lead generation. If you look at lead generation just like this, so I'm going to take myself down here so you can see the full photo. Okay. But if you look at, oops, hold on a second. Let me get my, oopsie. Get out of here, you. There we go. 2 of me were on the screen. So the lead generation sales, you'll see like one arrow leads to the next, leads to the next, leads to the next. That's the way most people look at lead gen, is that once they get the sale, they never continue on with the lead generation function. The thing is, you really need to be looking at your lead generation more like this. It goes all the way through. It never, ever stops. You continue to reach out to people, even if you like, okay, well, they already bought a car. They're not going to buy another car from me. Well, the thing is, do they have neighbors? Do they have children? Do they have brothers or sisters or parents? Right? That's why if you look down at the very bottom of the screen, there's a little infinite sign, a little symbol down there that says infinity. It means you continue to reach out to these people. And when do you stop marketing to them? When they have either demonstrated to you that they are not your client avatar, that they are not aligned with your core values, or they have died. That's pretty much when you stop marketing to them. And assuming you don't like working for dead people, it's pretty much 1 and 2. All right. So this is why I'm saying, like, this is where you're using those automations and those automation software pieces that I mentioned back in infrastructure. This is really where the magic actually happens. And the reason why you need to continue to follow up with them. Now, I will say this. Some people tend to go to automation too soon, or they reject automation altogether. I've been on both ends of the spectrum. I rejected automation probably earlier, and then I kind of got into it and I leaned on automation too much. And then I was like, screw automation. I'm pretty much in the middle of the road now. I think there are benefits to automation. You just got to do it in a way that builds and creates trust. Okay. That's the real marketing magic. So these automations and integrations that I talked about, like MailChimp and Constant Contact and Zapier and Odo, like all of that stuff, like once you know there are problems, again, because you know your avatar so well, once you know your problems, you deliver value to them over and over and over again to help solve those problems, and you give away tons of value. So I want you to think again, how can you demonstrate competence to your avatar? How can you, again, think about this in the context of the avatar. I don't care what you sell. Let's pretend again, like Carla, for example, she sells real estate in Houston. Okay. She knows her avatar generally, let's say, empty nesters that are trying to sell their homes. Let's say that that's a pretty typical avatar for her. So if she knows that they're empty nesters, she knows, okay, they're probably going to be between 45 and 60 years old. Okay. So what does a 45 and 60-year-old need that generally other avatar don't need? Well, they don't have kids at home. They probably want to spend time with their grandkids. So maybe a free pass to a local children's museum where that they could take them on like grandparents' day, right? That might be something that she could share with her avatar. Now, does it have anything to do with real estate? No, it doesn't. But the thing is that now her avatar knows, like, oh wow, she really gets me. She really understands me, right? And now she is starting to occupy their daily thoughts. And that's important. That's important. So that's what I'm saying. Like, how can you demonstrate competence that they say, oh wow, Mark really gets me. Oh wow, Carla really gets me. Oh wow, Suman really gets me, right? Oh wow, Shoshana really gets me. That's important. So how can you demonstrate competence, demonstrate understanding to your avatar? And this is what you can send to them over and over and over in your email automations, in your reach outs, by picking up the phone and actually calling them. Don't just rely on your automations. Make sure you're actually being a human being. Okay? Does that make sense? All right. So let me know if that makes sense, and different ideas like can you call them? Can you text them? Yes. Do your automations, but do your other human being stuff too. That's the difference. Like, again, all of you are going to get an email from me for a copy of this very training today, right? Like, you're going to get an email from me, and it's going to be me, right? So I just want to let you know, like, this isn't just stuff. Now, do I rely on automations? Yeah, you'll get automations once in a while, but not only automations and not only stuff from me, right? Totally with you, Mark. Absolutely. Thank you. All right, so we're almost done here. So again, we talked from the very beginning about seeking knowledge to understand versus seeking knowledge to take action. I'm going to share a quick story here, just kind of fun. I want you to think about this, though, before I blow onto that. But I want you to think, like, what is the thing, what is one thing you're going to take action on? I really want you to think about this. What is one thing out of all the notes that you've taken? I want you to think about, and go ahead and type your answer in as I give you this last little bit here. So, give you the slide deck. It'll all be on the video. I think it might be too big to send, to be honest with you, because I have some other stuff on there. I could try to do that, Suman. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can do that. So, but just email me and we'll figure that out. But seeking knowledge to understand versus, so I want to know what things that you're planning on implementing, like one or two things that you're planning on implementing. That was your thing that you committed to. So what are one of the things that you're going to commit to at the end? So this is a photo of a bank robber. You can't really see the gun, but his face is kind of blurry. But in 1995, there was two bank robbers who went in with no idea of how to they didn't even try or attempt to disguise their disguise themselves. And what they did was they held people up at gunpoint and they rubbed lemon juice on their face. And the interesting thing was they tried to do they tried to disguise themselves on by covering their face with lemon juice. And the interesting thing was they were super shocked that they couldn't do that they were actually found, because they thought the lemon juice would make them invisible. And the cops were like, "Are you kidding me?" So it actually started out the research around these two people, these two researchers, Dunning and Kruger, did this. Let me take myself down here. Give me 1 second here. If you look at this chart here, you'll see that this is the confidence graph is on the y-axis and the competence axis is on the x-axis. And if you look, everybody starts down here at the bottom. They don't know anything. Their confidence is very low, and their competence is very low as well. But then they start out on this journey and their confidence is very high. Like, how hard could it be, right? And then they realize, so their confidence grows very, very fast. Even though they don't really know what they're doing, their confidence grows very fast until it gets to the peak of Mount Stupid. And this is where they realize they don't know what they don't know. So then it comes all crashing down pretty quick. Like, oh my gosh, they start to realize all the things they don't know until they kind of crash down into the valley of despair. And the valley of despair is where many business owners tend to wallow, and they start to look for shiny objects and start to look for the next thing. All right. So this is where a lot of people tend to get derailed and go in different directions. But if you stay with it, you keep working on your confidence, or your competence rather, as you gain competence, you gain knowledge, you keep working on your skills, you go up the slope of enlightenment until you get to that plateau of sustainability. Okay. So the reason I'm sharing this with you is really to offer to you just a way of continuing your training, continuing to develop your competence. And that is through a school community that I have. It doesn't cost anything. You're welcome to join at no cost. I'm going to go ahead and put the link in the description here, and you are welcome to join me. Like I said, there's no cost as it sits right now, and that may change in the future, but I'm just saying right now there's no cost to join that. But it would be so yeah, there it is in the description. Okay, sorry, I was just trying to catch up with the comments there. And that is all I have, everybody. And I'll just go ahead and put that is the link right there if you'd like to just type that in organically. Otherwise, you can just click the link in the comment section. So that's it. I know we went a little bit long. We're just a couple minutes over, but thank you so very much for sticking around. You guys were a fun group. Thanks for hanging around today. And this has been a lot of fun. So again, I want to know what you guys are planning on. If you want to message me in your email, when I know that some of you may be driving, some of you may be doing some other things, but that is all that I have. Okay, here's a Shoshana. Takeaway action. Number 1, refine client avatar. Absolutely. Great place to start. Number 2, articulate how I accomplish the 15 reasons why people buy. Thank you. You are most welcome, Shoshana. Thanks so much for being engaging today. You guys were just, all of you were just a lot of fun and really engaging. So thanks for sticking around. That is all I have today, everybody. Thanks so much for being here, and I will see you in the boardroom. Have a great day.